Chris Evans is nothing short of one of the most recognizable and talented actors working today. This performer has starred in a number of critically and commercially successful films over the course of his career. At only 37, it's also clear that Chris Evans has a long and successful career ahead of him. However, his future doesn't lie with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Chris Evans, Captain America himself, has announced that he's leaving the blockbuster franchise after his performance in Avengers Endgame. While this will definitely be a loss to the MCU, it does give the terrific performer a chance to broaden his horizons. It also gives us the opportunity to take a look at his unusual history in Marvel films and how he's made a pretty big impact on the superhero genre of films. Get ready, because Captain America's throwing his mighty shield right into Chris Evans' lengthy Marvel career. Before his Marvel movie debut, Chris Evans would appear in a number of roles in feature films. This includes 2001's surprisingly enjoyable Not Another Teen Movie, 2004's pan-teen movie The Perfect Score, which he'd co-star in with Scarlett Johansson for the first time, and 2005's Fierce People, an independent film.
I got something.
However, his first Marvel appearance would be as Johnny Storm or the Human Torch in 2005's The Fantastic Four. The story behind how this movie came about is pretty fascinating and almost unbelievable considering the success of Marvel today.
Come on, think!
In the late 90s and early 2000s, Marvel wasn't doing so great as a company. In this time frame, the company was heavily restructured, and Marvel sold the film rights to some of its most popular characters and franchises in order to stay afloat as a business. This film deal gave Sony the rights to make any Spider-Man movie or a cut of the profits as seen with 2017's Spider-Man Homecoming. This deal also gave 21st Century Fox the film rights to the X-Men franchise as well as the Fantastic Four. Although the brand's impact on mainstream pop culture is pretty marginal today, at the time, ownership of the Fantastic Four was a pretty good get for Fox. The Fantastic Four comic series was one of the most successful and established in the industry, with the first issue of the series premiering all the way back in November of 1961. A Fantastic Four movie seemed like a complete layup, as it had more mainstream recognition than nearly any other comic property and a pretty sizable and dedicated fan base. The actual 2005 Fantastic Four film was divisive, to say the least. General critics found the movie's story to be rather bland. Fantastic Four comic fans were also disappointed by the many changes to characters, most specifically Dr. Doom, who is far more generic than his fascinating comic book counterpart.
Call me Doom.
While the movie has only grown worse with age, especially considering the success of more recent Marvel films, it's fascinating that this was Evans' first role in a Marvel movie, or big-budget action film for that matter. Chris Evans' portrayal of Johnny Storm is pretty in line with other interpretations of the character. As the youngest member of the Fantastic Four, he's the most brash and reckless. He's also the quickest to embrace the group's newfound superpowers and uses them to pursue his stunt work and general thrill-seeking. As Evans is most known today for his portrayal of Captain America, a symbol of unyielding dedication and moral fortitude, it's hard to believe he once played such a hothead.
Oh, you're hot.
Why, thank you, so are you.
Evans would reprise the role in the 2007 film Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, where he and the rest of the team would fight the Silver Surfer and his master, Galactus. Although, since the cosmic entity only appears as an energy cloud in this movie and not a giant purple dude, many are hesitant to call this the first live-action appearance of the iconic villain. Although it would be a number of years before Chris Evans' next Marvel movie appearance after Rise of the Silver Surfer, he would appear in a number of comic adaptations in the meantime. 2007 would also see Evans voicing Casey Jones in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated movie.
Stay with me now. We'll be out of here soon.
This film would garner mixed reviews, but would gross nearly $100 million in its worldwide release. In 2010, Evans starred in the movie The Losers, which is based on the comic of the same name published by DC Vertigo. Vertigo is an imprint of DC that runs comics with a darker tone than the publisher's more traditional lineup. The Losers would only get mixed to poor reviews, though.
And the crowd goes wild.
2010 also saw Chris Evans portray Lucas Lee in the film adaptation of Brian Lee O'Malley's graphic novel series, Scott Pilgrim. In this series, Lucas Lee is an action movie star who Scott must defeat in battle if he wants to continue to date Ramona Flowers. Chris Evans is basically portraying a parody of himself in this role, and it is simply fantastic. It's also worth noting that Chris Evans would portray the Human Torch one more time in 2008, where he voiced the character on an episode of Robot Chicken.
I'm the Human Torch, you ass!
In Season 3, Episode 20, he voiced Johnny Storm, a teacher, a pilot, and bizarrely a parody of Gobbo from the Fraggle Rock children's show.
Look at all the radishes! Hooray!
That's right, the guy who plays Captain America also portrayed a crass version of the children's puppet. Show business is weird sometimes. In 2011, Chris Evans would star in his third Marvel movie, his first movie in the MCU, and for the first time don the shield of his now iconic performance as Captain America.
What do you think?
In Captain America: The First Avenger, Chris Evans plays Steve Rogers, a young man who is desperate to fight in World War II. Ultimately, he was rejected by the Army due to his frail body and weak constitution. However, he is granted a special admittance into a secretive super soldier program based on his good character. After proving himself more cunning and brave than any of the other troops in the program, he underwent a super soldier treatment. This transformed him into the absolute pinnacle of human physical ability. While initially used as a means to promote the war effort and war bonds, Rogers learns that his childhood friend Bucky Barnes became missing in action after confronting German special forces. Rogers recovers his friends and afterwards convinces Howard Stark, Tony Stark's father, to give him his iconic vibranium shield. After that, Captain America launched a full-on campaign against Hydra and its commander, the Red Skull. The offensive is successful, but also results in Barnes' capture by Hydra forces and Rogers becoming encased in ice for decades. At the end of the film, Captain America awakens in the present world and is recruited by Nick Fury for S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Avengers initiative.
You've been asleep, Cap.
Surprisingly, Chris Evans actually had quite a few reservations about playing Captain America in this film. He didn't want to star in another critically panned superhero movie, but was also concerned about being forever tied to the role if it became a hit. In the end, he would accept, though, and become what very well may be the face of the MCU. It's one of the most successful media franchises in the history of cinema.
Guys, don't look at the camera.
Evans would reprise his role as Captain America in 2012's The Avengers, the first major crossover title of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Here, he works together with Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, Black Widow, and Hawkeye to fight off an invading alien army and Thanos' first attempt to gather the Infinity Stones located on Earth. This movie was nothing short of a cultural phenomenon and is currently the 6th highest grossing movie of all time. It also cemented the MCU as a cultural titan and popularized the idea of a shared universe in modern film. This movie was also an event that will influence cinema for decades, and Chris Evans was at the center of it as Captain America.
Captain America saved my life.
Evans' next appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe would actually be in an uncredited cameo in 2013's Thor: The Dark World. In this movie, Thor and Loki are trying to escape from Asgard, and the trickster god changes their appearances to match other characters. This comedic sequence ends with Loki transforming into Captain America, and Chris Evans plays Loki. This means that Evans is essentially playing a parody of Captain America in this movie, and it's pretty hilarious.
Hey, want to have a rousing discussion about truth, honor, patriotism? God bless them.
His next Marvel appearance would be in 2014's Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This film sees Rogers combating the schemes laid by Hydra over the course of his 70-year cryogenic stasis. The villainous organization now has numerous operatives within S.H.I.E.L.D. and is manipulating the organization with the intent of creating a surveillance state where Hydra has almost total control over world affairs. This movie also sees Rogers battling the Winter Soldier, who is actually his friend Bucky Barnes. We learn here that Bucky was brainwashed and kept in a stasis by Hydra following the first Captain America movie, and is used by the organization to perform exceptionally dangerous missions. In the end, though, things turn out pretty well for the Captain. Hydra's main forces within S.H.I.E.L.D. are defeated, and Nick Fury begins hunting their remaining agents in Europe. Bucky also shakes off enough of his brainwashing to regain sense of self, but its lingering effects would play a pretty large role in films to come.
You're my friend.
Although not before the events of Age of Ultron played out in the 2015 movie. Here, Captain America and the rest of the Avengers need to defeat the villainous Ultron, an evil artificial intelligence that Tony Stark accidentally created. Although Captain America is less integral to this movie, the events of it still heavily shape his actions in the movies to come. Next, Evans' Captain America would appear in a post-credits scene in the 2015's Ant-Man movie. Here, he and Falcon locate Bucky and hint at the difficulty of their situation because of the recently passed Sokovia Accords.
We're on our own.
This, of course, directly ties into the events of Captain America: Civil War. This 2016 movie is basically an Avengers-level crossover film, but sees our heroes fighting each other rather than an external threat. This conflict comes from an agreement that Tony Stark and other heroes signed that limits superhero activity to the discretion of the United Nations. Iron Man came to see this policy as the correct one after seeing his technology turned against him and innocent people. Captain America, though, refused to become a kind of puppet for a governing body, like when he first became a super soldier.
But it's run by people with agendas, and agendas change.
He also doesn't like how the Accords would affect his friend Bucky. The Accords would more or less strip the Winter Soldier of his autonomy because of actions he couldn't control. By the end of the film, Captain America and most who sided with him are fugitives, and Chris Evans' character is still in an unresolved feud with Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. Chris Evans' next appearance in the MCU would be a more comedic one, though. In 2017's Spider-Man: Homecoming, Captain America appears in a number of public service announcement-style videos. Not only did his appearance spawn the hilarious "so you got detention" meme, it's also a great bit of world building that shows how society might change with superhero celebrities.
How many more of these?
Chris Evans' last major Marvel appearance to date would be in Avengers: Infinity War. Here he fights in vain against Thanos, who ultimately erases half of all life in the universe.
Where'd he go?
Chris Evans will, of course, appear in Avengers: Endgame when it premieres on April 26th. This will be Evans' last major appearance in the MCU, and will feature him rallying the remaining heroes to battle Thanos and return the universe to its complete state. We have a ton of theories on how this next Avengers movie will play out, and you can check them out right here. Mini spoilers. Ant-Man's probably going to be a pretty big deal in the movie, and Thanos might have a change of heart. Oh, also, everyone who was lost in the snap is probably gone forever, which is a bummer, but exactly what the MCU needs to shake things up. Although he won't appear in another Marvel movie anytime soon, Chris Evans does seem to have some cool stuff lined up. He will star in the film Knives Out, which was directed by Rian Johnson of Looper and Star Wars: The Last Jedi fame. He's also starring in the biographical drama The Red Sea Diving Resort. Looking back, Chris Evans' Marvel career is a strange one. He went from starring in some of the most panned films under the Marvel banner to becoming the face of its most successful franchise. It's all the more bizarre considering he turned down the role of Captain America 3 times before accepting the part. This nearly missed opportunity is even surprising considering how perfect he ended up being for the role. It's also pretty interesting that such a large part of Chris Evans' filmography consists of films that are adaptations of comic books or graphic novels. As Evans exits his role of Captain America, only time will tell if this trend continues or not. However, it's undeniable that he played a pivotal role in changing the cinema landscape by giving such brilliant performances in so many Marvel movies. Although it will be hard to say goodbye to Captain America, it will almost certainly be worth it to see what strange and spectacular performances Chris Evans gives outside the Marvel collection of movies. What do you think of Chris Evans' many performances in various Marvel movies? Do you maybe have some trivia relating to the actor that we missed when putting this video together? Either way, let us know what you think in the comments down below, as we'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. While you're there, please be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Behind the Screen. We have loads of videos already posted that dig into the careers of some of the most popular actors around. We also have plenty more videos coming soon that analyze and break down some of the best shows, movies, and characters in pop culture. We upload videos twice a day, so be sure to hit that bell icon. That way you'll get a notification every time a new video goes live and you can check it out before anyone else.